Hi everyone, my name is Bhuman Dani. I'm the founder and CEO at WickedGud. Born and brought up in Bombay, I did my undergrad from BITS-Pilani. Thereafter did my MBA from INSEAD, got placed at the Boston Consulting Group in their London office, did a lot of consumer goods cases across Europe, but always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So found one idea in 2016, quit BCG London, moved to India and started the Good Life company, TGL Co. Friends and family called me a fool, but I was extremely passionate about what I wanted to build. Scaled TGL to a certain level and then exited to strategic investors in 2021. With WickedGud, the entire thesis was around building healthier alternatives to junk categories. Basically, our food is crude. All the empty calories, the sugar, oil, the artificial elements that one can't even pronounce made me think twice before consuming them, let alone my family. If you look at any consumer packaged food today, it's dominated by 4 ingredients: maida, oil, sugar and chemicals. I think our families definitely deserve better. Which brought me to the mission statement, Unjunk India, one kitchen at a time. The brand promise is wicked taste and good ingredients. So anything that lies at the confluence of the two, we'd like to enter in terms of categories. The problem we're solving is the problem in every household, including mine. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And the biggest challenge my wife faces with them is to consume what food every day. Kids want to have junk every day, mothers want to give them healthy food. Kids end up dictating consumer behavior, mothers end up domesticating junk. So if you can create a win-win situation in every household by giving the junk that kids want, but with ingredients that are known to be healthy by the mother for the kids, I think we've hit the sweet spot. Of course, there's a low-hanging fruit here, which is health enthusiasts who are looking for healthier options across categories, but are options devoid. That's exactly the problem we are solving with WickedGud. As the name suggests, WickedGud is an oxymoron where we're trying to bring two extreme worlds using the transformational lens, where we've tried to transform wicked indulgent junk into good nourishing meals prepared by mothers. And wicked is no longer negative connotation with Gen Z community. In fact, it's something that stands for overtly good. How was the party last night? Oh, it was wicked. Hence, WickedGud as a brand name resonated extremely well with our audiences. What are WickedGud products made of? Dal, chawal, chana, oats, atta and millets. The basic constituents of an average Indian meal, which is why the protein and fiber is significantly higher, while the net carbs and saturated fat are significantly lower. In fact, all instant noodles in the market are deep fried. We make them using a SCAD technology, steaming, convection, air drying. So not a drop of oil is used in the entire manufacturing process, resulting in the saturated fat to be 96% lower as compared to incumbents. Not only that, with the chips, it's made using a popped technology. Fried chips have 44% oil. Popped chips have only 12% oil. And the oil we use is not palm oil, it's sunflower oil. So the saturated fat is significantly lower. With the food pharma coming in, a lot of companies have changed palm oil into sunflower oil, including Lay's and other large chips companies. We've been forerunners here by having sunflower oil from day zero. And it's not predominantly potato, it's chickpeas. So the protein and fiber is significantly higher and the net carbs are significantly lower as compared to a fried potato chip. Taste and price are primary drivers of consumption in India. Health is a third driver that is coming up, although it's probably going to take some time before it becomes an entire driver. Until then, it's more a discovery. Oh, by the way, this is tasty and it's well priced and it's also healthy. So why not consume it again? So that's the focus, that's the zone that we want to play in. In the very short span of time, we've already gotten into 2,000 plus retail outlets across the country. Almost 700 plus out of these 2,000 are in the northeastern states. This is North Bengal, Sikkim and Assam. That's one of our strongest territories, and given the kind of general trade stores that we're catering to in these regions and the kind of repeats that we're seeing, I think we've barely begun, and there's a huge potential for this brand to take it to 1,000 crore revenue mark over the next 3 to 4 years. In fact, we've had our set of failures. The SKU that we launched this brand with has been discontinued. I think that just shows how closely we take consumer feedback and how serious we are about having the right product for the right consumer in the right market. We started this brand with a gluten-free pasta, which was made out of chickpea, red lentil and brown rice. As much as I can still swear by the product, it did not scale beyond a point. Reason? We got an insight. That is, majority of mass premium consumers in India cook pasta in a cooker. Now, if you cook a gluten-free product in a cooker, it will disintegrate and become mushy. Instead of educating consumers and getting that done, we chose a better alternative, went at a grain level, changed the recipe slightly, added some amount of durum wheat so that the overall product is still much healthier than what's available, still has significantly higher protein and fiber than the mass incumbents, and still does not cause bloating after consumption. So all in all, heard the consumer, heard their pain points, pivoted and launched a product which is now accepted very well by mass premium India at a price point which is also sort of known to them to be friendly. In terms of challenges, I think like most other food startups in this space, commodity price remain a large challenge because we are very heavily dependent on commodities and grains. As and when, if there is, let's say, another, or like what happened with the prices of wheat really shot up, and there's not much we can do in terms of controlling that. So that remains a challenge. One way to mitigate that would be to have long-term contracts with certain players so you don't significantly have a material impact on your raw material pricing. I think the biggest challenge the second biggest challenge that we would face or any other consumer brand faces is growth. How do you manage growth? When do you go offline? How do you manage the offline piece? Thankful to us, we had very good mentors help us from day zero. Instead of starting this brand in Mumbai, Bangalore and Delhi, which is what any other food brand would start with, we started with the northeastern states. INSEAD, we spoke to people from Nestle and ITC, and we figured almost 30% of top line of Maggi and Yippee comes from the northeastern states. So definitely a geography we couldn't ignore. So instead of starting with Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, we started with the northeastern states. Yes, it took us some time initially to get that mass sales going on, the momentum to begin. But once that began, today it accounts for almost 33 to 40% of my GT business. Just to show you how the right insights can help a brand at a very early stage without burning much money. The other insight I've learned, by the way, is if you've launched the perfect product, you've launched too late. I think the quest for improvement is a given for any entrepreneur, and you've got to keep changing your recipe. Every production that you do has to be better than the earlier. Only then can you get a product which is widely acceptable and loved by consumers. I've been really fortunate enough to have the right set of advisors from day zero. We had Rinka Banerjee help us build the entire R&D portfolio. Rinka was 18 years with Unilever. Her latest role was the R&D director for the South Asia business for the foods division. There's probably no category in F&B that she's not worked on. So really helped us at day zero. All the existing and future categories, the R&D piece has been really forefronted by her. We've given her some advisory shares in return, and she continues to be an advisor and help us build this brand further. In terms of R&D, I think that's the backbone of what we are building. How do we create a healthier version of a junk category without using much junk ingredients? At the same time, we got to understand the primary drivers of consumption in these categories, which are high indulgent categories, are taste and price. There are no extra points for being healthy. Health is more of a discovery. If the product is tasty, if the product is in line with the budget and economic, then if it is healthy, that just adds value to the overall offering in terms of value. But if the product is only going to be healthy and not tasty and at the price that is known to consumers, they're going to reject it. So there's a very thin line between health, taste and price. They're only tasty and their price points are low. But with the advent of Food Farmer and other influencers on the platform, people are now aware that in India, there are these large FMCG companies that are using substandard ingredients, whereas the same product outside of India, the ingredients are very different. For example, palm oil versus sunflower oil versus groundnut oil. In India, because of the kind of price point people need to cater to, they add only palm oil, which is really harmful for your health, very unhealthy. But the same product available in different countries will have a very different oil structure. Similarly with sugars, there are certain products which have very heavy in terms of percentage sugar in the overall product in India. The same product outside of India will probably be half or 30 to 40% lower as compared to what they use in India. Reason? Taste, price, consumer insights. All of our categories are heavily dependent on contract manufacturers. While the recipe is owned by us, we rely on them to do the entire production, in some cases even procurement of raw materials. So the reasoning of going after, or rather working with contract manufacturers rather than setting up your own facility, is so that your capex is as low as possible. At initial stages, you wouldn't want to spend the capital that you have on capex. You'd much rather spend it in growth or in building the brand. At the end of the day, all young FMCG startups are in the business of building brands. If they say they're in the business of selling A, B or C category, that's not correct. Their primary goal is to build the brand. Their secondary goal is to build the category. So building of a brand is core to whatever you're doing, which only makes sense therefore to work with contract manufacturers in the early stages of your startup. In our case, the biggest challenge that we faced was, given the kind of raw materials that we had, given the sensitivity of the flours, it was very important to choose the right person so that there are no quality issues or there are no consistency issues. Even with the noodles, there are a lot of noodle manufacturers that you'll find that make fried noodles. But to make an air-dried noodle with the kind of innovation that we've done, we've also filed for a patent, by the way, for most of our categories. So for the kind of products that we wanted to create, we were limited to very few contract manufacturers. So of course, Rinka and her team and many others in the ecosystem helped us connect to the right people. The biggest constraint, even from a contract manufacturer's perspective, is who is the brand? How are they going to scale? Initially, will they meet my MOQs? Probably not. So they'll probably have to invest some amount of time, money, energy in building your initial brand. So it's always good to directly sit across with the contract manufacturer, give them a 3-year plan, tell them where this can go if we get their support initially. And in some cases, it would also be a good idea to get investment from them. In our case, the largest pasta maker in India, Gustora Foods, is also an investor in our brand. So that really helped us because they nurtured the brand. They really created a world-class product out of sensitive material and ingredients that majority of the other manufacturers couldn't create. I know Country Delight has also done a very similar thing in their initial days. It may not be a significant amount. Even if it's a small amount, it'll only give them the sense of belonging and the skin in the game kind of scenario, where they would feel they're building their own brand along with you. Another very important question that people keep asking me is, when is the right time to raise funds? What is the right amount of capital to raise? Should you bootstrap it, scale it, and then raise funds, or should it be the other way around? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. It entirely depends on entrepreneur to entrepreneur basis and the kind of categories you're trying to build and the kind of channels you're selling through. If it's an online only product which has seen some amount of initial traction, I don't see the reason why you would want to raise initially. But if your product is heavily dependent on offline retail, where you really got to build a team, you really got to get distribution in place, I think it might want to raise capital early on in the game, given the kind of budgets that would be required to build distribution. There are 3 parts to every startup's journey: initiation, growth, and optimization. I think that initiation stage is the 0 to 1 stage where you try to get some amount of PMF. It's best you raise as less as possible here so that your dilution is less. And then comes the great growth stage where you've established some amount of PMF and you really want to go all guns blazing with the products that do well in the channels that you're envisaging. And then comes the optimization stage, of course. Once you've raised significant amount of capital, you'd also want to return profits to some of these investors and stop raising at one point. And that's when the optimization case sticks in, where you try to optimize not only at a CM2 level, but also at an EBITDA level and also at a cash burn level. So the true answer to how much to raise and when to raise would entirely depend on how your P&L looks like, what categories you are catering to, which are the channels that you're working on, and which life cycle of stage of the startup you are in. That would be my advice. In our case, we've raised about 4 rounds so far, about 18 to 19 crore. Our first round was led by Titan Capital. We had participation from Aman Gupta, Sameer of Boat, Amit from Lenskart, Gaurav from Chris Capital, Jorge from the Liechtenstein Group, Archana from Point One Capital. When we were slightly more ready with the product, we did a seed round which was oversubscribed. That was led by Venture Catalyst, Mumbai Angels and NB Ventures. and saw participation from Dholakya Ventures, Asiana Fund, Bhavik Vasa, and some of the other angel investors. Then we did another round where we got on board Shilpa Shetty, a brand ambassador. She also invested in the company. And lastly, about 6 months ago, we did another round, which was mainly existing investors, along with Disruption Fund and Hyderabad Angels. Some of the other things, it's very important to get the right mentor in a food brand. Someone who's done it in the past, probably a food founder or someone senior in the entire industry who can help you not only from an R&D but also from other functions perspective. The journey of a founder is very lonely. I can tell you, this is the second time I'm doing it. You always want validation. You always want that punching bag who you can go to, who can imbibe what you say and then give you the right set of advice. Do not have too many of them at the same time. Just having 2 or 3 people for different roles and different functions can really help and take your brand to the next level. Lastly, in terms of growth, don't go at growth at any cost. There might be a lot of investors who might come in and tell you various things. The brand is yours, the baby is yours, you got to nurture it the way you want. Go after optimized growth, slow and steady growth, because once you hit the accelerator, then to brake is extremely difficult. So it's very important to scale up, but in a steady way, where you have visibility on what kind of product is being sold in what geography, in what channel, and where the profits lie and where you should avoid going into. So instead of putting eggs in all eggs in all baskets, choose the kind of eggs, choose the kind of baskets, and then slow and steady wins the race is all I can say in consumer FMCG.